Hello and welcome to the episode on Rosecast. Welcome here once again. Today's topic will raise some controversy. However, I'm trusting the Lord to help me to share this topic as He has laid on my heart, and as I continue to speak, He will give me the right words to say. This topic made me to really meditate a lot, and it made me to think a lot about myself and about what I believe would be the better thing to do instead. And in the course of preparing for this topic, I had a conversation with a friend, and our conversations went down this train of the topic. And I was like, I'm going to share a podcast on this topic, and my friend was like, yes, go on, that would be great, share it, that would be great. So as you've already seen the topic, it's titled, Do Not Give Up Your Dreams for Anyone. Wow. When I even think about it, I know it's going to be a very strong topic, but I would implore you to stay on to the end of this podcast and listen to what is going to be said. Your feedbacks, your comments are all welcome, very much welcome, and please do not hesitate to share this with your friends, to share this with your family, to share this with your fellowship cycles, to share it with your to share it to anyone that you know would be blessed by it. Kindly do not hesitate to share. And if you would want, like I always say, if you want to follow this podcast on your platforms, do not hesitate to do that as well. So with that being said, let's ride into today's podcast. Now, what is a dream? A dream is a hope that you have for your future. It's a vision. It's a seed for your destiny that God plants in your life. It's what you are seeing yourself to be. Now, when we are growing up, we were often asked, what is your dream? What do you want to be when you grow up? And we usually said what came to our hearts, or what we've been told in school, or what we've been admiring. We just said a lot of those things. Now, those words that we said as children, most of us took it very serious. And as we grew up, we began to form our life and pattern our lives in accordance to the dreams that have been placed in our hearts. I, for one, never dreamt to be a doctor. I had so many things I wanted to be while growing up. And even though some of those things I wanted to be are still things I'm passionate about, but studying medicine came later on in life. However, anytime you ask a child what they want to be, they mention a particular thing they want to be, a particular profession they want to be. And as the child grows up, the child either changes, which usually happens, or the child follows up that dream they have said at their young age, and wants to pattern their life towards that dream. Some people may also dream to be rich. So what we want to be, what we have seen our future to look like, what we have envisioned ourselves to be, is a dream. And I want to say that those dreams also shape the choices that we make. It shapes the way we want to live our lives. If a person says they want to be a doctor, you see that child begins to start trying to act like a doctor, start doing things to mimic doctors. Desire, as the child grows older, the child will do science classes and on and forth. And as God will allow it, and as life and chances would allow it, if a way is made to pursue that dream, the child pursues the dream. But if there is a change later on in life, then the child changes dreams. Now, dreams can change, like I already said, based on circumstances. But dreams are like seeds. You are not yet in it, but it is what you are already seeing yourself to be. So dreams are a core part of every human, because dreams gives hope. And when there is hope, there is life. So when a man or woman has a dream, it means that they have hope for their life. Once a dream is absent from a man's life, once a man or woman cannot dream, cannot see something greater than where they are at now, you can see that man or woman may be in a hopeless state, and that's not a good place anybody should be. Now, dreams always increases. The more you achieve a particular dream, the more your dream expands. Now, being a doctor is not all that there is to life. So one could decide to be a doctor, then you become a doctor, but there is more within being. There's more to just being a doctor. There is an opportunity to expand beyond just being a doctor. So as a medical doctor, I know there is more to being a doctor. Even if I want to just study and practice medicine, there is more to just finishing my medical school and end the title of a doctor. So dreams expand. Dreams don't just stay in one place. They continue to grow with time. So what is a dream? A dream is a seed for your future, is a seed for your destiny. You are not yet in it, but you can see yourself in it. So it's important to know that it is God that gives a man dreams. It's God that gives man good dreams. Let me use that way, good dreams. And I'm not trying to go into the negative aspect of any of this topic. I'm just going to stay in what is right and proper and true. Now, when a young child is beginning to see themselves in a particular way, dreams are planted in the heart of man in order for them to have hope for life, in order for them to have passion for life. A man without a dream cannot be passionate for their lives because they cannot see themselves beyond where they are at their current state. And this is what makes children very pure. As children are young, they can dream and see themselves in big places. They can dream and see themselves in influential positions. I remember when I was young, I and my siblings would always, say like really big things about our lives, big things about our future. And we just said it because, we just really believed that was what was going to happen with our lives. So say, I'll be in this place, I'll be in that place, I'll be this, I'll be that. But the older a person grows and the more they face the reality of life, the more that ability to really dream diminishes. And I can say this from a personal place and experience. The more you try to pursue your dreams, the more you try to put in sacrifices, the more you are hopeful that this dream will be achieved. And then the more you are faced with the realities of life, you begin to find that your strength and your power to dream those beautiful dreams begins to diminish. And that's because as the older we get, the more we are more factual than we are full of faith. A child has a lot of faith. A child, they don't think a lot about the realities of life. They don't bother themselves about a lot of things. They just have to depend on their parents to take care of them, at least in a proper setting. But the older you get, the more responsibilities come upon you. The more you begin to see how the world works, you begin to see the unfairness. The more you begin to see the nature of humans, the more you see that you need to do so much in order to achieve your dreams. And if you are not born into influence, if you don't have a pathway of influence from your parents or from people around you, realize that you need to work extra hard in order to achieve what you want to achieve. So this makes man, the older he gets, become more hardened, and it is easier to lose your dream or become less dreamy as an adult than as a child. But it's a reminder that I always tell myself that the dreams I have were put in me by God, and you will know that these dreams are not your dreams, because dreams are meant to be bigger than you. They are meant to be bigger than your current state. Like I already said, it is where you are seeing yourself even though you are not yet there. So dreams are put in the heart of man by God in order for that man to have passion and in order for him to have hope to pursue that life in a way that at the end of the day it's going to be a blessing to both the man, to the world, and to God. Now, God plants dreams in our heart because He wants us to achieve destiny. He wants us to be fruitful. He wants us to multiply. He wants us to be a blessing to the earth. That is the purpose of man's creation. Not that man shall bless the earth. Now, when God puts these dreams in our heart, He desires that we pursue these dreams in order that we would be a blessing to the kingdom of God. Therefore, if God puts that dream in our heart, it means that God would also make a way for those dreams to be achieved. And that's why I also said that the older a man gets, the harder it becomes for him to dream. But a man with understanding realizes that if God put this dream in my heart, God too can make a way for for this dream to come to pass. With this being said, going down to the topic, you should not give up your dream. Do not give up your dream for anyone. And this is the reason why. Because when you were made, when God created you, He created you alone. Even twins, even triplets, when they are born, God regards them as a single person. When you are born, if you are not a twin or a triplet or a quadruplet or a multiple gestational child, you were born alone. Therefore, you will die and give account for your lives alone. So, it means that the dream that God has put in your heart is so individual to you that you cannot tie it down to anybody. You cannot wrap your dream around anybody because it is so personal. It is for you to succeed. It is for you to achieve. True, God is going to bring people into your life to help you achieve those dreams. God is going to connect you with people that are destiny helpers, connect you with people that would encourage you, people that will help you, people that will spur you to pursue that dream. However, your dream is so personal that you need to guard it jealously and know that it is your responsibility to achieve the dreams that God has put in your heart. Now, in our society, it is common in a family setting for mothers, for women to be told, to sacrifice their dream in order for their children to go to school, in order for the family to be stable. Now, as much as this is very beautiful, when it is not done in a setting where the woman has, organized her life in the hands of God, has given herself an opportunity to still continue on those dreams God has put on her heart, the end result of what we are going to have later on in life would be regret. And that brings me to say that in the African setting, we hear some statements that are very common but are not healthy statements. They are emotionally blackmailing statements. Statements like, "Oh, I gave up my job for you. I sacrificed my everything for you. I did all that for you." And thus it puts the parents on a dependence on their children with the hope that their children would fulfill their own dreams for them. Therefore, nobody should tie their dreams around anybody. Dreams should not be tied down to children. Dreams should not be tied down to spouses. Dreams should not be tied down to friends. Dreams are yours and your personal responsibility to accomplish. Now, when a person does not achieve their dream, they don't have a fulfilled life. They don't have a sense of fulfillment. And I tell you, a sense of fulfillment is a blessing from God. In Psalm 127, the last verses, God there was saying that it is vain that a man should rise up early and go to bed late, because he giveth his beloved sleep. Not God, rather. The psalmist that was saying the psalm was saying that. And when we read from the verse 1 to the last verse, you could see there was a huge factor on the fact that whatever it is that you are supposed to achieve with your life, it is dependent on God. He said that unless the Lord builds a house, those who build it in vain. Unless the Lord watches a city, those who watch over will watch in vain. And does it mean that we should not build a house? Does it mean that we don't employ builders if we want to build a house? Does it mean that we'll just buy building materials and allow miraculously angels to build it for us? Does it mean we do not have security around our houses? Does it mean we will not lock our gates and if necessary buy dogs or have extra security if there is a need? No. That place is saying that we cannot depend alone on all those things to give us the security, to give us a foundation that we need. Therefore, we cannot tie our dreams to anyone. I believe I'm not married, so I cannot give expert marriage tips. But from my own understanding and from my own observation, people who have tied down their dreams to their children often end up in old age with regrets, because most of the times they put so much pressure on the children may not end up living the dreams they want. Or even if the child gets into acknowledging that dream, the child is forced to continually please the parents who did not live up to their own dream. So I believe that even in settings where a parent may have to give a pause for family, give a pause in order for family to be stable, I believe that whoever does that should still continue working on their dreams in a silent way. We will continue having plans to make sure that their dreams come to pass. Should not completely discard their dreams. Should not completely not tie down their dreams to their children, to their husband, to their anyone to give them that fulfillment, because it is your personal responsibility, like I already said. This brings me to talk about Joseph. Joseph is a man that God gave a dream at a young age. Nobody in Joseph's family supported his dream. Instead, he was almost killed because of his dream. But Joseph never forgot the dream that God put in his heart. And that dream was what he held on to even at the toughest times of his life, when he was lied on, when he was almost molested, when he was literally molested by his boss's wife, when he was put into prison for what he did not do wrong, when he had to spend years in that place without family, without the love of people that he lived all his life with. Joseph never forgot the dream that God put in his heart, and he continued in that way. He never deviated. He continued to organize and maintain himself in the direction of his dreams. Joseph, even though he was not yet in his dream, even though he had to wait all those years, Joseph did not live a life that would implicate his dreams. He did not live a life that was outside, the pattern that the dream that God had given him. God had given him a dream that he was going to be a ruler, and Joseph employed those attributes even in the prison. So I believe that even if a time comes in our lives that we need to probably pause in the pursuit of our dreams in order for a bigger cause, I believe that we should not completely discard our dreams, but we should continue to live in the direction of those dreams that God has put in our hearts. Now, can dreams change? I already said that previously, that dreams can change. And am I saying that the will of God cannot supersede our will or our dreams? No, I'm not saying that. I believe that God is the one that puts these big dreams in our hearts. However, it is God that would also help us achieve the dreams. All that I'm saying, I'm not saying that we will do it by ourselves, or that we need to go through the crooked way, or that we need to manipulate or force our way through in order for those dreams to come true. No, I'm not saying that. God is still the major factor in making sure our dreams come to pass in the way He has put it in our heart. This makes me to still go back to talk about Joseph. Even though he had the dream to be a ruler, Potiphar's wife presented him an opportunity to experience such in a pseudo way. But because Joseph knew that could never be God's own way of achieving his dream, he had to flee, and he had to make the sacrifice of being falsely accused in order that he does not go out of God's standard for his life. Now, it doesn't mean that we could be having a dream or a desire that we have in our heart that this is what our lives would be. It doesn't mean that along the line God may say, okay, leave this place, do this, don't do that. It doesn't mean that God asking us to do that means that completely our dreams are dissolved. God can give us instructions that may not look like what we think would achieve our dreams, but when we obey and trust His own will, God will always have a way to make those dreams He's put in our hearts to come to pass. It's possible that the way we think that our lives would be, or those dreams will be accomplished, it's possible that God's own method of doing it is not exactly the way we think it's going to be. I'll still go back to Joseph. Joseph had dreams that people were bowing down to him. So it's possible he may have thought that he would become the king of Egypt. But no, he did not become the king of Egypt. He was the right-hand man of the king, and he literally had dominion over the whole country, except the personal and the wives like that the king had. But he gave him power over everything in the country. And at the end of the day, people still bow down to Joseph. His brothers still bowed down to him because he became very prominent ruler. But if Joseph had the mind that he had to be the king, he must be the king, that the dream had to come to pass in this particular way, he would have missed out on what God had for him. So it's possible that we may have a dream, we may have a vision of what God had put in our heart that our lives would be, but we should not be so fixated on how it's supposed to go, because it may not go that way. God has the best way for our dreams to come to pass. And that brings me to say that is why we need to depend on Him in prayer, in fellowship, and in relationship, and to trust that He's going to guide us in all things. Just as Proverbs chapter 3 says that, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall make that path straight. That is in verse 5 or verse 6. So God has His own way of making our dreams come to pass, and we should not be so fixated on the way it has to happen. If not, we may be forced to do things, or forced things, or do things that would make us have experience those dreams by any means, and at the end of the day, we don't really bring glory to the name of the Lord. It's important to know that for every dream and vision God has put in our heart, there are people's destinies that are also tied to our own destinies. Now, I'm not saying this so that it becomes so much pressure on us to by all means achieve our dreams. However, with that consciousness that our lives are not just for us, but our lives are also to bless so many other people, to liberate and encourage other people, it helps us to realize how very important it is for us to see our dreams are valid. So our destinies, a lot of people, we ourselves, I have been blessed by certain people who stepped into what God had for them. My life is forever blessed by certain lives, and some of them have passed on for so many years. And sometimes I ask myself, what if this person didn't write this book? What if this person didn't live for God? That would have meant I would have lost on these blessings this person had to give. So your life is a blessing, and that is how you should live it. So with that being said, like I already said, you do not have to trust on your own understanding alone, but we need to put in the work. There is work that comes into achieving our dreams. It can't just happen anyhow, spontaneously, miraculously. No, miracles will happen along the way. Like I said, God will bring people our way that would help us. God will create situations in which we need to maximize, opportunities that we need to maximize. We also have a big role in making sure our dreams come to pass. Still going back to Joseph put in the work. Joseph was a good and faithful servant when he was in the prison. He was a good leader. He cared about the people that he was watching over while in the prison. And that was what opened the door for him to finally leave the prison. Even though the potter took a long time to remember Joseph, but because of the fact that Joseph had done something worth remembering, that was what opened the door for Joseph to leave the prison and step into the promise that God had for him. So we need to put in the work. We need to make the effort, and sometimes making those efforts can be draining. Like I said earlier, that's the reality of life. Sometimes the more you're making the effort, the more discouraged you get, because you are not really seeing results at that time. But our dreams cannot be achieved by themselves. That is why for people that only dream and don't do the work, they are not people that we really admire, because once dreams are not worked upon, nothing would happen. So once God places those dreams in our heart, we pray over them and we have passion over them, and then we ask God for ways to accomplish them. The next thing we need to do is to do something about them. What are we now doing about our dreams? What are we doing towards that? And that is where we lay down plans. That is when we begin to research, begin to write, begin to compile things, begin to go towards save up to do those things. This is hard work. It can be draining, it can be discouraging, but because we know that this is what we have to do, is our responsibility with our lives, we put in that effort to make sure that it comes to pass. See, this is our first life. We are not going to do any of this in heaven. There will be no need to work in heaven. There will be no need to write books in heaven. There will be no need to do many things we are doing on earth in heaven. So we only have the earth now, and this is the place we can maximize the dreams that God has put in our heart. Heaven is always the ultimate goal, but while we are living, let's make sure that we are making our living worthwhile. Now, it's true that it could be difficult to live, especially what is going on. But I believe that with the Lord on our side, and as we trust Him with our lives, He's going to make our paths clear. Now, in Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2 to 3, God there telling Habakkuk, after Habakkuk had complained and talked about, shared out his heart to God about what was going on in his country and with his people, and how they had been destroyed and just every sad thing that was happening. And God had given him promises, and then God said, write the vision, make it plain, that whoever shall see it shall run with it. It shall come to pass, it shall not tarry. This is a very powerful verse. These verses are very powerful, and there are verses that I reflect on whenever I get very discouraged. You need to write down the dreams that God has put in your heart. And as God reveals the way you are supposed to go about it, you write them down. There's something about writing things down that makes the words more powerful. Because when you write it down, you can always go back to those things, read them, and you are encouraged again. I tell you, sometimes, no matter how powerful a dream is, even if you don't write it down, you may not be able to remember it as clearly as it has come to your heart. I love diaries a lot, and I encourage people to get diaries. Even if you don't want to write about your days and everything, you could get a diary to write down the things that God is placing on your heart, because it's always different when you go back to read those things you have written. There is an experience you get when you read that reminder to yourself. So please, let's write down our dreams, let's write down our plans, and as we pray and trust God on them, we believe they would come to pass. And one of the things I did a lot in medical school, which I believe was very prophetic, and I often do when I'm faced with certain very difficult situations, I write down my testimony. If I'm trusting God for something, like most of the times I was trusting God for my exams, I write down in my diary, I'm going to come back here to write and testify of what God has done, and I'm going to praise God that I'm going to pass this exam very well, I'm going to do very well. I write it down and I read and I walk towards my exam, and God has been so faithful. I always get to come back and tick that prayer point. I'm like, God, thank you. And I realized that doing that has been very prophetic for me, and it shows the power of writing down and believing in what God has given us to do. It doesn't mean there will not be challenges, it doesn't mean there will be contention for the dreams that God has put in our heart, but it's our responsibility not to give up. We do not have to give up. And I'm saying this not just for you, but for myself, because yes, it could be easy to feel like giving up, but with God on our side, God will make things clear. He will make every crooked path straight. So please, if you don't want a diary for anything, just have a diary to write down what God has been placing on your heart, and trust that it's going to help you to work towards it. Yes, you may not have everything laid down. See, I don't have everything laid down. I don't have many things laid down. But I always ask God to help me to make do with what I have, while I trust Him for more. So you may not have everything figured out, but let you start something. It is better to have started something, and let us say it did not work out exactly the way you wanted, than you did not start anything at all, and you never know what the outcome would have been. That is one of the words I've given myself this year, and God has been helping me. I may have not done it as much as I should, but I'm grateful that I have been doing some of it. So please write that vision down as you trust the Lord that it's going to come to pass. So with that being said, that brings us to the end of today's podcast topic. I believe that with all that has been said, you realize why it's important for you to find your dream very valid and trust God to bring it to pass as you do the work as well. Because there's nothing beautiful about living a life that is unfulfilled, or living a life where you have to always blame other people. Oh, this is the reason why I did not fulfill my dream. Oh, my parents are the reason why my dreams were not fulfilled. My children are the reason why my life is not fulfilled. Because it makes you go around being jealous of other people, being grumpy. Not even just grumpy, the fact that your life, you'll be living a life where you continually envy other people who have lived out your dream. Like I already said, if you have to sacrifice your dream for a moment, for something that appears greater, for example, family setting, you should not completely discard it if it's something that God has put greatly in your heart. It should not be something that you should completely ignore. You can still work towards it, probably not as much as you would, but let that be something you are still working step by step towards. And that brings me to still add this. Education is so important. I would encourage everyone to, as much as possible, pursue education. Mothers should not give up their education for their children. Even if you do for a time, please still go ahead and pursue education, because it is something that also gives fulfillment. Sometimes when I see some mothers that have given up education for their children, some of them are very quite intelligent. I always try to encourage them to please still try to pursue education for themselves, because one of the things that also gives us fulfillment. Now, I'm not saying that we should depend on these things to make us fulfilled, but it is something that adds to our fulfillment. So do not give up your dreams for someone with the hopes that they will fulfill it for you in proxy. That's the recipe for unfulfillment. And if you feel that your dreams may not be as achieved as you want, do something that is near to it. Pursue something that is close to it. Or pursue something that you can train yourself to find fulfillment in. I just don't want any of us to live our lives feeling unfulfilled. It's something that I sincerely do not want for myself. I don't want to ever see myself living a life that does not feel fulfilled, that does not feel like I'm accomplishing what God has put in my heart. And that's why this topic is very passionate to me. So before I extend this podcast more and more, yes, thank you for staying on to this place on today's topic. Please do not hesitate, like I already said earlier, to share this to people, others, to your friends, your family, your fellowships, and to anyone that you believe will be blessed by it. I await your feedbacks. The link attached to this podcast platform, if you are listening to me on Anchor and possibly Google or possibly Google Cast or Spotify, there's a link attached to this podcast platform. You can either see it as a link or as a website logo. When you click that link, it leads you to my creative platforms. God has been helping me, and I really need a lot of grace. And I thank God for His grace to still do more. I'm trusting God to still do more before the end of this year. So please don't hesitate to click those links to be directed to my other creative platforms and all that I've been sharing in those places. So with that being said, until next time on Roscast, please continue to stay safe and God bless. Bye-bye.